of the king that we had to leave England. Him and his
Bishops?
bishops didn't like the way our people chose the worship. None of their business, I said. They jailed our leader and harassed us till we had to leave our homeland to live in Holland. But the youngest among us now seemed more Dutch than English, and with the fear of a new war with the Spanish incoming, our elder decided we take our chances in the New World.
Good. Okay, awesome. Go ahead and read the next page. We came to London to rent ourselves a ship with Captain Jones and his crew. We were loading her up with provisions for the long voyage to America. I had hoped for a day and a half to go to see my mother and brothers in Fen Stanton, but my master said we were too pressed for time. When I wasn't running all around London ordering barrels of this and bales of that, my master, John Carver, had me copying out lists of supplies and letters to the businessmen who were lending us money to fund our voyage. Many's the year we'd be working to pay them off. When our ship was nearly loaded, Master Carver sent me to find Warwick Inn up by the city wall beyond the cathedral. I was looking for a certain gentleman. Now, as you can see, you can notice like the illustrations are way bigger than the actual text, so that's kind of telling us that we need to pay attention to that, right? Go ahead.
In the noisy throng of Londoners, a tall, white-bearded man stood out, Elder William Brewster. I whispered to him, Master Carver sent me for you. We leave London with the dawn tide. I remembered you well from Holland, John, he replied. Take me to the ship, lad, and let's be quick. There is danger for us here. Sure enough, that there were shifty-looking characters all about, and dozens of the king's
It's kind of a hard word.
Militiamen were in the streets. If they had known that I was one of the leaders of the separatists, the very bishops, right?
We skipped one line, the very man.
Oops.
That's okay.
The very man who published all those pamphlets against the king and his bishops.
Yeah.
We would have what would have been done.
No, not quite. We would have been done for, right? That's okay.
We would have been done for. They would have chopped off Elder Brewster's head and mine and stuck them up on spikes on London's Bridge for sure. We stuck to the back lanes and alleyways, by the time we made it down to the wharf, it was already dark. The taverns nearby were noisy with sailors and longshoremen, but the quay was quiet.
Quays were quiet.
At last we came to our ship. She was being loaded by lamplight, cask of beer, sacks of onions and cabbages, boxes of salted herring, and barrels of Corner's beef. Tasty stuff. Some of the passengers were still getting their chests and their bits of furniture on board. The sheep and goat and chickens were waiting to last. My master shook William Brewster's hand, fit to shake it off, then hurriedly guided us across the gangway. Thank the Lord you are safe, William, he said. Welcome aboard the Mayflower.
Nice, good job. Okay, the Mayflower. Outside Master Carver's cabin, I unrolled my mattress and tried to get some sleep. I don't think I'd slept even an hour before I heard the great clanking of the windlass as they hoisted the anchor. There's that word we were talking about. I ran up on the deck for a last look at London. Only a few lights were lit, and the big ship made hardly a sound drifting down on the tide away from the sleeping city. One of our sailors bellowed a farewell across the river to a woman on the wharf. A coarse shout came back, "Godspeed!" And I thought of my mother's gentle voice, "Godspeed, John."
The sun was up by the time we reached Gravesend, where the river widened. The crew was busy unfurling the sails to catch the morning breeze. I was enjoying the fresh air when a burly sailor came over to me.
Burly sailor.
Burly sailor
There's
came
that word
over to
again.
me. Oh yeah. You're the boy that runs the messages, ain't you? Yes, sir, I am. John Howland's my name. Never mind that. Just get below and tell your boss that Bob Coppin, that's me, the first mate, ordered that the passengers are to keep down between decks. Now we're underway. We'll let you know when you can come up for air. And keep it quiet with all that praying. With that, he stomped off laughing. I'll be pleased to take your message, Master Coppin. I called after him. You will find, sir, that we are civil people, and we hope to give no offense to God or man. We hope only for a measure of civility to return. The first mate stopped laughing. He turned around and looked long and hard at me. Then he gave me a nod and said, Right you are, Master Holland.
Good job. Can I check out the illustrations? The Speedwell. We made good time skirting round the coast to Southampton, and there we waited till our smaller ship, the Speedwell, arrived from Holland with the rest of our company. The two vessels were drawn up side by side and lashed together, and there was a joyful welcome as we met our old friends again. William Bradford, Captain Standish, and the other important folks gathered around my master. I went to chat with the other servants. The lads were excited about the adventure ahead of us. I heard that the trees there are 5 times bigger than in England, said Bill Button, the doctor's servant, and the rivers are full to the brim with fat fish just begging to be caught. There's a parcel of land and a fine suit of clothes awaiting me next spring, said Roger Wilder, and he only had 6 months left of his indenture. I'll have my pick of all the free English girls in Virginia to wed. Poor old Helen here will have to wait another 3 years. You may laugh, Roger, but when my time is through, I'll be jumping on my first ship headed back for England. London is where I'll make my fortune. Perhaps I'll open a shop selling soap and candles to foolish folk who want to go live in the New World. Now there's a fine young lady, might make a good wife for me in a year or 3, said Bill, and he nodded toward a skinny girl who was playing nearby with the little ones. Master Tilly will have your hide if you go near his little Lizzie, said Roger. When she comes of age, he'll be wanting her to marry the doctor, not the Dr. Skivvy. We all laughed, and the girl glanced over. Then the children dragged her off to see the baby goats and piglets being brought on board.
It took weeks before our 2 ships set out from Southampton, but we had hardly gone 10 leagues when our troubles began. Speedwell! Never was a ship less well named. Every time that little ship was put under a swell of canvases, she began as opening.
She began or she became?
She became as opening and leaky as a sieve. We have to limp along the south coast of England, stopped to patch her up several times. Finally, we put it on Plymouth Harbor, and it was decided that we must leave Speedwell there and proceed with only the Mayflower. Bill told me his master wasn't keen to go on. He said that our supplies were near half eaten up before we had even left England. Half gone already, John? We've sailed into the winter. What will we eat when we get to Virginia? Don't forget those fat fish, just begging to be caught, I joked. But a good man of our company decided to stay behind. We sold all our possessions
Good job.
in Holland, said Master Carver. There is no going back for us, John. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, for he favors our endeavor.
Good job.
So we committed ourselves to the will of God and put to sea. At last, under a prosperous wind, with all of us on the one good ship, Bob Coppins barked his orders, and the sailor boy was busy. Boys were busy, shining up the rigging and unfurling the sails. The wind snapped the canvas taut, and the old ship's timber creaked as she cut smartly through the waves. Many's the tear that was shed as we waved farewell to our friends, to Plymouth and to England.
Plymouth.
Plymouth.
Good job. Half our company now were strangers. That's what we called them. They were Christians indeed, just not the same kind as us. A lot of the strangers were good folk. Like us, they had little to keep them in England and high hopes for what future they might make for themselves in the new world. No one stayed strangers long, the way they were crowded together between decks. Some of the better off passengers had a cabin to themselves, but most of the families just had a blanket or two hung up on a rope and to give them a bit of privacy. For some few days the weather stayed fair, and Bob Coppin called for me to relay a message that we were allowed to on deck to stretch our legs. Bob was a decent sort, but most of the sailors cursed at us and mocked those of us afflicted with seasickness. Our time at sea was tedious and uncomfortable. As servants, we at least had a few jobs to keep us busy. I would often be asked by Master Carver to fetch a box of candles from the hold or take a message up to the captain or copy out some accounts. As we sailed on, we encountered fierce storms we didn't get up to see the sky for days on end. Each big wave that broke over the ship drained down through the decks and on top of us. We were wet and cold all the time, and we couldn't even look forward to a hot meal. All we had to eat was the hard tack and the odd bit of salt pork. In spite of it all, Lizzie Tilly remained cheerful. She and the other girls played games with the little ones to keep their spirits up. Elder Brewster led us in a prayer of singing hymns. Most of the strangers joined in.
Some weeks out from Plymouth.
Good job.
We were caught in the real cruel storm. Everyone held tied to a rope or a bulkhead, and the little ones were firmly strapped in. Of a sudden, the ship reeled right over, and Lizzie Tilly rolled out of the bunk and landed at my feet. "Are you all right, miss?" I said, helping her up. "Yes, thank you, Master Holland." As she spoke, the ship keeled over the other way. There was a loud wrench noise and a wrenching sound, and a torrent of water poured in on us. "Hold tight." I thrusted a rope into her hands and hurried off with the men to check the damage. So Lizzie Tilly knew my name. Off one of the main beams holding up the deck had buckled, and now the planks were flapping loose to the wind. Roger said He he heard the captain talking about turning back for England. I'd have been in favor of that myself, but I held my peace. William Bradford spoke. We will not put about in the hold we have an iron screw for raising roof timber. We can use it to jack the beam into position. He looked at us then, and his eyes lit on me. Get a lantern, John. We're going below. We made our way down into the cold and darkness of the hold to look for the jack among all the casks and chests and furniture. When we found it, we slung a stout rope around. Ow.
You okay?
Yeah, around it. The men above took most of the weight, and Bradford and I heavily heaved from below. It was a mighty job to lift that jack up through the hatches with the ship rolling near onto her beam end. Once the screws were fixed in place, we turned it and hoisted the timber back into position. The carpenter quickly hammered a strong post under it. After good caulking of the planks, the ship was sound even to proceed.
Enough to proceed. Good
Enough
job.
to proceed.
And good job on pronouncing caulking. Good job. Man overboard. In quiet times, Bob Coppin would stop to tell me his tall tales and share an orange or a cut of pork jerky with me. When your time with Master Carver is up, maybe you'll become a seaman yourself. There's always a place for a keen lad in my crew. You might have a few adventures of your own, eh, John? Thank you, but no, sir, I replied. I'm not one for adventures. It is my intention to return to London at the first opportunity and perhaps go into business there. Business, is it? Bob Coppin smiled. I believe you might do it too, with a bit of good fortune. Mostly, though, the mate and his crew were hard at work fighting the weather. Sometimes it was so bad they had to let the ship lie under bare poles, point her to the wind, and hope she would weather the storm. It was just such a time when I took it upon myself to go up on deck, despite the order that we all stay below. I was seeking a bit of relief from the foul stench between decks. I was hardly up through the hatch when a huge wave hit and sent me flying over the side.
Down and below I went.
Down and down.
Down and down I went into the darkness under the icy waves. It was quiet down there, no raging wind or rain like up above. A strong current was dragging me deeper and further away from the ship. The deeper it got and darker it got, and soon I wasn't feeling the cold. I just wanted to shut my eyes and go to sleep for 100 years. Wake up, John, said my mother's voice. Wake up, dreamer. Far up above, I saw the Mayflower's keel. I thought, that's my ship. She's taken me to America. A flash of lightning lit up a long rope trailing down from the ship. I pulled myself over towards it. My lungs were bursting now. I could catch a hold of the ropes and held on tight in the freezing water. Luckily for me, one of the crews had seen me fall overboard. Bob and his sailor boys hauled me in like a big fish. Then they were shouting and scolding me and rolling me over a barrel to get the seawater out of my lungs. I've no recollection at all of what happened after that over the next few days, but Roger told me that my master had me brought to his cabin and that Mistress Carver herself nursed me till I was well. Elder Brewster announced to everyone that it was the Lord God himself who put that robe in my hand. And the Lord brought them forth with a mighty hand and an outstretched arm, and with miraculous signs and wonders.
Okay, good job, Money. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk. What's going on so far in the book? A lot of stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
What's going on so far?
They got on, but they didn't think this was going to happen. They thought it was just going to be a happy voyage to America.
Okay, good. I like the word voyage. Big word. So yeah, but and then he was told to stay under, and he still went up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then he fell overboard, man overboard, right? Good job. Okay, so hey, since we're talking about double meaning words, can you find any on this book, on this page, or throughout the book that you may have thought about, or even on this page?
Oh, current.
Current? Okay, where's current? Can you show me where current is?
Right there.
Okay, good. Okay, so basically you're saying there's two meanings for current?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, can you give me the two meanings for current?
One is like a wave current.
Good job. Mm-hmm.
And the second is like this time.
Right now. Good job. Okay, good job. And what do you think is going to happen next after this page?
I think that he's gonna survive, but it's the Mayflower's probably gonna crash.
Yikes. Okay. Let's see. And then after the Mayflower, what happens that you know of? That we're going to celebrate here in about a week.
Oh, there's gonna be Thanksgiving.
Yes.
Pilgrims with the Native Americans.
Yes. Let's see if they talk about that. Okay. My turn to read, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It was a week before I was on my feet again, and the first day I went back among the passengers. I noticed a great alteration in them. 2 months lying wet and weary in that unwholesome old ship were taking their toll. Folks were glad to see that I was all right, and they clapped me on the back, but some of them couldn't rise in their bunks. The pains in their joint were that bad. When old Master Chilton joked about me trying to swim home to England, his laugh turned into a wheezy cough, and I saw that all his gums were all rancid and black. Then Bill Button took a bad fever, and on the third day he died. Not a thing his master, the doctor, could do about it. As Bill's shrouded body was pitched into the sea, I saw Lizzie Tilly and some of the younger ones crying. I wondered if she might have cried if it was me that was dead. Elder Brewster spoke to them sharply. "Enough of the tears, children. The Lord God will be our guide even unto death. He has called William Button to his heavenly rest. We must not question his plan." So they're putting the body into the sea.
Land ho! One morning in early November, the shout went up, "Land ho!" Those that were able rushed up on deck to see what America looked like. It didn't look like much, but to have crossed a vast ocean and a sea of troubles for a great stretch, right?
Yeah.
Full of sandy cliffs with a few scrubby trees. But all of us passengers were right joyous, thinking that soon our feet would be on dry land again. Bob Coppins was shaking his head and grumbling. "That ain't Virginia, lad," he said to me. I woke up, and down this coast was Captain Smith. "Those storms have driven us 200 miles north of where you folks want to be. That there's Cape Cod. Well, there was great debating between our leaders and the captain about whether we should land here or head south. It was decided that we should head to Virginia. So we tacked around the sailed south. At first, the tide and the wind pushed us along briskly. Before
Excuse me, I'm
bless
sorry.
you,
Thank you.
long we fell among treacherous currents and roaring breakers.
Breakers.
It got so bad that many of us feared that now, within sight of the new world, all would be lost. But by God's will, we were delivered from those perils and is that right?
Perils.
Perils.
Good job.
And the captain guided the ship back to Cape Cod's safe harbor, swearing that he would not risk those waters again.
Scary, right? Okay. Our elders and the most important of the strangers met then and in the captain's cabin. Outside, all the servants and the women were straining to hear what was going on within. I had my ear to the door. What were they saying? What are they saying now, John? Whispered Mistress Carver. Seems that none of the strangers reckon we won't be bound by any charter at all if we settle here and not in Virginia, I said. Say they might go on their own way once we're ashore. They wouldn't, she answered. None of us will survive if we don't stay together. The arguing inside went on for a good while longer. Then suddenly Master Carver opened the door and I nearly fell into the cabin. He was surprised for a moment, and then he clasped his wife's hands and said, May God sustain me, Kate. It is decided that I am going to be the colony's governor. Mistress Carver looked not a bit pleased at this news. Our first duty, John, said Master Carver, turning to me, get your ink and quill. We have a new charter for you to copy out in your best hand. I carefully wrote out the words of a solemn pact that said we would govern ourselves by agreement among ourselves for the good of us all. Fine words, and all the men were able signed it, even me and the other servants.
America? Now, young Master Howland, William Bradford said, throwing me a sword and scabbard, arm yourself well. We're going ashore. As soon as we set foot on dry land, we fell on our knees and blessed the God of heaven, who had brought us over that vast and furious
Good job.
ocean and delivered us from all our perils.
Good job.
I confess that while the others were praying, I was keeping a sharp eye out for any more perils.
Perils? Yeah, you got this.
That might have been lurking in the scrub. We began to explore that we found the place to be a naked, barren wilderness.
Barren wilderness. Good job. So they reached America, right? Yeah. Our search of the area revealed no suitable place for habitation, nor did we know how to find or meet the native people we knew inhabited this land. Once we saw a party of them running across the beach, but they were a long way off, and though we called to them and pursued them for some miles, we could not find any of them. We did find some houses seemingly abandoned, though, and under a mound of sand we dug up a great basket filled with seed corn. Captain Standish said to load it up into a big kettle that was there, and we carried it back to the ship. My conscience was troubled about that. After the long tedium of the voyage, see that word that you used, we were all busy now about the ship and on shore. Our people ferried back and forth to refresh themselves on dry land, and returned to the ship with firewood and fresh water. The woman took the chance to wash clothes and bedding and laid it out clean on the rocks to dry in the winter sun. Even the young ones made themselves useful, helping to carry the animals to shore for some fresh spring water. Our biggest job was fixing up our large sailing boat, the shallop, which had been cut into 4 pieces for stowing between decks. While hoisting a beam alongside Elder Brewster, I said, I know they are heathens, sir, but the corn that we took, well, that seemed a lot like stealing to me. John, he replied, the Lord has seen our need and has answered our prayers. Don't you recognize God's providence, which he has placed before our eyes? We will repay the Indians fourfold if we can ever find them.
Truth is we were getting desperate, not only for food, but for a place to settle. Each day that passed, more of our people on board the Mayflower fell sick. Bob Coppins recalled a likely place for his time mapping with Captain Smith and a party of us set out to the shallop in the shallop to find it, but we made slow progress. The cold wind lashed and hailed in our face, and the water froze on our clothes and made them like coats of iron. When it got dark, we put ashore to rest the night. We built a
Rough.
sorry.
Fine.
We built a rough stockade for shelter. We got little sleep though, for the hideous cries.
Let's go back to this word.
Hideous.
Hideous or
Hideous.
hideous. Good job.
Hideous cries we heard in the dark. In the morning, one of our company ran, screaming, "Indians! Indians!" Straightway a haul of arrows came zipping all around us. We rushed to our muskets and fired back. Bob and some of our men got separated down at the boat. They had muskets but no firebrand to fire them with.
Continue. I'm just gonna fix this video.
I ran to the fire, grabbed a burning log, and scrambled down the beach to our fellows, who took a fire and started shooting at our attackers. We could see the Indians' leader fearlessly letting fly his arrows from behind a tree, only half a musket shots away from us. That must be the man whose corn you took, shouted Bob. Captain Standish finally hit the very tree itself, and the Indians took fight with a great cry. The rest of his band behind him. So it pleased God to give us deliverance from our attackers without killing one of them and getting a scratch on one of our own.
Good job.
So where are they getting shot by?
So it seems to be that the people I took the corn from, which were what?
They took what's his name again?
Master Carver?
Yeah.
He took it from the Indians, yeah. So it seems to be that it's the Indians.
Wait, where are they getting attacked from here?
Right here, yeah. So they're coming in from the left, and there's their ship. Safe harbor. We collected ourselves and loaded into the shallop right quick and cast off, heading north along the coast. We sailed with the icy winds whipping around us all that day without seeing a harbor, a river, or even a creek. A squall blew up of a sudden, and with Bob Coppin and me leaning on the tiller to steer us away from the rocks, the hinges of our rudder broke. There was nothing we could do but to steer with our oars. Over the din of the storm, Bob shouted, "Be of good cheer, lads, I see it. The harbor, I see the harbor," and we cut in for the break in the shoreline. The wind behind us now was so strong that our masts shattered, and with our rudder hanging loose, the shallop was tossed like a toy from one huge breaker to the next. It was only by God's mercy that our boat was borne into the shelter of a small island rather than being broken into pieces on the rocky shore.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Turned out it wasn't the place Bob had thought, but when we had a chance to sound the harbor and survey the land around, we agreed that this was indeed a most hopeful place for our settlement. It seemed to us the Lord had saved us from the deluge, and carried us here, for we found that the land had already been cleared for cornfields. There were graves and bones aplenty, yet there were no living Indians to be seen. We repaired the shallops as best as we could and sailed back to the Mayflower to tell of our discovery, but they were grim news.
There was grim news.
There were grim news. As the ship in the 6 days we had been exploring, more of our people had taken sick, and more still had perished. Old Master Chilton and William Bradford's wife, Dorothy, were among them.
Okay, so people are passing away, right? Okay. Christmas Day, 1620. Master Jones sailed the Mayflower up to our new situation. He announced to us that the place was called New Plymouth on Captain Smith's map. Now we knew what God's hand had guided us across the ocean from Plymouth, our last port in England, to Plymouth, our new home in New England. I was part of the landing party of 20 put ashore to build houses, but we were tormented by foul weather and made little progress. I never thought things could get more miserable than on the ship, but as we looked through the rain and sleet to where the Mayflower was anchored in the bay, we envied the relative comfort of our friends still on board. Sometimes we saw Indians watching us from the dark of the forest. At night we'd hear terrible cries that would make us shudder to our very bones. One morning when Captain Standish woke us, he was less gruff than usual. "It's Christmas Day, lads. God save you all. Looks to be a dry one. We'll get those gables built if it stays good." It warmed us up to heft an axe and pull a saw. Before long we had hoisted up the frame of the first house. At noon we stopped for thin soup and ship's biscuits. Standish gave us each an extra piece of salted cod too. Don't tell Elder Brewster. As we chewed, I remembered that last Christmas I spent with my mother and brothers. Games and songs with Arthur and little Henry, mutton pies and roasted goose, a hug and a smile and a Merry Christmas, John, from my mother. Roger pulled me to my feet. "Come on, dreamer, back to work." Okay, so what's going on so far, Money?
Well, they made it to the land.
Okay, yes.
America.
Yes, America.
But there's Indians and they don't want them here.
Okay, why don't they want them here?
Because they stole their corn, I guess.
Yeah, okay. Mm-hmm.
And they think it's their land, no one can take over.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
And it's getting winter, everyone's getting sick and perishing.
Right, and good job on using the word perishing. And you know what I really like? I really like how you are using everybody's voice in your own voice, so your own dialect. So that's really good. It helps frame the book better, right? Okay, so since we're talking about double meaning words, have you spotted any so far, or do you see any on this page, or anything like that? Maybe that a word that's unfamiliar or a double meaning word?
Ooh, there's party.
Party, okay. So there's two definitions to party. I'll give you one. So one is the one used here,
Oh,
which
I can tell you both.
yeah,
Okay.
go for it.
One is like the Democratic Republican Party, right?
Okay, yes, good job.
And another one would be like a woohoo party, like oh.
Yes, okay, good job. So in this part where it says, I was part of a landing party of 20 to put ashore to build houses, which party are they talking about?
The one that's like democratic and
so full of people,
yeah.
Right? Yeah. And what helped you decipher that or helped you figure that out from this text? Anything from this sentence?
It's like a party is way more than 20 people too.
Okay.
And like a landing party, which like there would be no such thing as like you land and then you're like, oh.
Right, okay, and right here, you know, it's a, yeah, so you know what, you got it, good job. Good job.
Oh, there's another one.
Okay, what's the other one? You see it?
Yeah, I saw it. It's a relative.
Relative?
It's also like familiar, like
Okay.
you're relative to something.
Okay, good job.
And it's like your family member.
Okay, so your relative, like maybe your cousin or something?
Yeah.
Okay, and then relative as in like
oh yeah, I'm relative to that. Or
yeah, like I'm aware of that or I'm familiar to that. Good job, Money. So proud of you. Good job. Okay, you want to move along? What do you think is going to happen next?
They're probably gonna make peace with the Indians.
You think so?
somehow.
Yeah. And then that's when our favorite holiday is going to come. Okay.
Well, it's my birthday. That's my favorite.
Okay, okay. So is it your turn or my turn?
I think it's my turn.
Okay.
In 2 weeks, the house was built before the thatching was pinned. Down, Roger. Down. Roger and I had badged up a spot for our mattresses. Bagged.
Mm-hmm.
A spot for our mattresses and a loaf. It was smokier up there than it made Roger's cough worse. But at least it was dry. Downstairs, the rain sloshed in and the floor was wet mud. Before long, though, we had to make room. We had to make room for the sick. Captain Jones wanted them off the ship, so Roger and I went back under canvas. At first, the women tended to the afflicted.
Afflicted. So that was one of our unknown words. And what does afflicted mean?
Afflicted, like a problem.
Yeah. Pain.
Something
or
like
something
conflict.
caused upon. Good job.
Afflicted while the men worked on the houses. But soon most of the women were ill too. At times only 6 or 7 of us remained. Well, enough to tend to the others. Lizzie and the women were up before dawn boiling dry peas for pottage. For those that were but those that were poorly ate little or nothing. Most of our time was spent cleaning the sick and washing their filthy bedding. I helped with Lizzie's father and her uncle, and then with Roger. The work was some loathsome, that I thought it was a blessing to be ordered out into the cold and rain, to fell trees and split planks. A few of the sick, like William Bradford, recovered, but in spite of all the care that young Lizzie Tilly gave to her family, they all died. One after the other, mother, father, aunt, and uncle were buried out dead.
We buried our dead.
We buried our dead at night so the Indians might not see our true weakness. Our great adventure was becoming a nightmare of sickness, death, and danger. But the time winter was over. Roger had died, and so had many of the several lads too.
Other servant lads.
Other servant lads too. One of 100 and odd persons, scarce 50 of us were left. Wait, did they ever figure out what the disease was?
I think it's just that they keep perishing because they're not getting fed well. They're not in the best weather. It's just constant illnesses and it's probably contagious. So people that are, getting sick are probably passing it on to the others, and then there's no medicine. So how can we get fixed? So yeah, and here's an Indian. So. Welcome, Englishmen. With the arrival of spring and the bitterness had gone from the north wind. Yeah, go for it.
With the arrival of spring and bitterness that gone from the north wind, we had fewer sick folks and most houses built. One morning, a tall, fine-looking Indian walked boldly into our village. He walked right up to the captain Standish and said, "Welcome, Englishmen." His name was Samoset.
Samoset.
Yeah. He had learned some English from the men on our fishing boat who visited the coast. As he was right friendly and peaceable, we gave him food and some little gifts. Later he came back with other Indians. One was Squanto, who spoke English near as well as me. He told us about his own people and Patuket,
Patuket.
Patuket,
Yeah. Kind of
who
hard word.
lived, who had lived in the place where we'd settled.
Mm-hmm.
He told us about the mighty Sachem,
Mm-hmm.
Sachem who ruled that landed the great King Masoit,
Masoit of the.
Masoit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Of the Wampanoag,
Wampanoag, probably.
and of his many warriors.
Okay, good job. So there's a couple of hard words on here.
Weird words.
Yeah. You want to read this one, or you want me to read?
Read it. Masoit. It was arranged that Masoit himself should come to our settlement, as we welcomed him as royally as if he was our cousin of the King of England. Mistress Kavanagh and the other women, Carver,
Mm-hmm.
and the other women prepared our finest food,
Mm-hmm.
and it was my job to serve it to the governor and the Indian Sachem. It was months since I had seen such a spread. Masoet must have seen how hungrily I looked at it, for he smiled and offered me a leg of a roast duck. It was disgusting. I confessed I took it and ate it as much as I could before my mistress scolded me and took it away from me with a hard slap. To the great amusement of Sassawit.
Mm-hmm.
After much discussion, Governor Carver and Masoet, Governor Carver and Masoet made a solemn peace treaty between our people. Then they embraced and exchanged gifts as they were old friends.
Mm-hmm.
When Masoet and his men left, Squanto stayed with us. He said,
Patuket? Yeah, I'm confused on that word. Patuket? Yeah.
When it was his home.
Good job. Okay, the Mayflower returns to England. With the worst of the winter over, Master Jones decided he would finally sail his ship back to England. As we loaded the shallop with supplies for the ship, Bob told me that he would welcome another hand. There's nothing for you here, lad. Come back to London with us. But I had yet 3 years of my service with Governor Carver. It was not my choice to make. Bob wrapped a strong arm around my shoulder. When you get to London, you come find me down Southwick Way. Do you hear? You'll find your fortune. Don't you worry, John. Lizzie Tilly overheard me talking to Bob about London, and she gave me a cross look. Everyone turned out to watch the Mayflower as she slowly tacked around the bay and sailed over the horizon. So the Mayflower's leaving. Okay, you want to read Squanto?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's my turn, right?
Yeah, your turn.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Squanto, we set to work planting our crops and tending our fields. Squanto showed up how to manure the ground with the little fish that we caught in great abundance.
Good job. Yeah.
He showed us how to sow beans and squash along with the corn. One day he trod eels, fat and sweet, out of the mud, and his feet flipped them up into his hands like a magic trick. Our people were right glad as he came home that night with dozens of them. When I joshed him about sounding like a Londoner, he told me the story of how he had been stolen to be sold as a slave by the English captain. He had managed to escape and spent many years in London, where he served a good master much as I served Governor Carver here. But London was not my home, and I am not manservant.
No manservant.
No manservant. I never stopped trying to find a way to get back to Patek.
That's just a word we're gonna Patek. We'll look it up
Patek.
later.
Anyways,
Mhm.
I went on ship to America as a guide, and when I knew I was close, I took my chances to get home. But when I arrived there, I found only graves and bones. All my people had died on the plague.
Of a plague.
On a plague. A white man deceased. Squanto was silent for a while. Then he said, "Well, John Howland, if I speak like an Englishman, why is it that you, who are English, speak like a Dutchman?" And we all laughed again. So that's Squanto.
Yep, that's Squanto, and then that's John Howland. The death of Carver. The work in the fields was backbreaking. Squanto watched. He said it was woman's work. There were so many stones to clear away, and the weeds grew back as quickly as we could pull them up. At the end of each working day, we had to soak our aching hands in the cold water of the brook. I thought how Roger had wanted his own parcel of land here, a parcel of nettles and stones. On a fine day, not a month after the ship had left, Master Carver himself took sick while he was out working in the fields, and within a few days he died. He'd been our leader and our governor, and he had been a good master to me. He even left me a sum of money in his will. His death was much lamented. Remember that word that we talked about?
Mm-hmm.
And we buried him in the best manner we could, with some volleys of shot from all those with muskets. It was hard on Mistress Carver. She took sick herself and then died 5 weeks later. They are saying it was broken heart that she died of, Master Howland, Lizzie Tilly said to me as we buried my mistress. She loved her husband that much. She loved him true, Miss Tilly, but it was this wretched country that killed them both, I answered. Lizzie looked hurt, and I was sorry I had been so sharp with her. Now I was left without a master. I was a free and equal man. Okay, let's go ahead and stop here. So this is going to be our last stopping point. What's going on so far?
The governor died. Wait, what was his name?
Yeah, Master Carver?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Master Carver died,
Yeah.
and since he was working in the fields, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was working in the fields, and then he died. So now they're burying him.
Yeah. So, and then Squanto is also, Samoset and Squanto are also in the picture now. So, yeah. What do you think is going to happen next? So, we're almost into the near of the book. So, what do you think is going to happen next?
Can I look up or no?
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh
no, you can't. No, you can't.
I thought you meant like.
No, you gotta guess. You gotta predict it.
Okay. They're probably gonna leave.
That's probably gonna leave.
Yeah, because they don't want any more people to get sick.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So, do you see any double meaning words or unfamiliar words on this page, or everything that we've read so far that pointed out to you?
Sharp.
Sharp. Okay, so you think sharp is a double meaning word?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so should I give you one meaning and you one?
I got 'em.
You got them? Okay, go ahead.
Okay. One is like a pointy.
Okay.
Like a pen top or a knife.
Right.
Or another one is like being smart, like a sharp brain.
Right, like sharp, like to the point, kind of, is it harsh?
No.
No? Okay. So how do you know what it means in this sentence? Is it talking about a knife or is it talking about the way he is towards her?
The way it is towards her.
Yeah. Okay. Good job.
And then there's another one.
Okay.
Free.
Which one?
Free.
Okay, where is that?
Right there.
Okay, free. Okay, so there's two meanings. I'll give you the two meanings now. Okay, I'll give you one and you can give me the other one. Okay, free is well, I bought this water bottle and it was free. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have another meaning of free?
They had let me go.
They had let you go. Okay, good. So in this
like
sentence,
the slaves, they freed them.
there you go. Good job. Good job. So let's see what happens next. We're still not. Oh, here's the next page where our favorite part is.
Thanksgiving. It's my turn, right?
Yeah, your turn.
We chose William Bradford to be our next governor. Under his leadership, we worked hard this summer, building more houses and tender our crops. The barley and peas we brought across the sea did not thrive, but God be praised. Our Indian corn flourished. The governor ordered me and three others to go fowling to so that we might have a special celebration. After we had gathered in our harvest, Squanto showed up at the best place to hunt. So we came back with as many birds as we could carry. Turkeys, partridges, and quails, enough to feed us all for a week. We finally had enough to eat and more to store up for the coming winter. Having lived through the trials of the past year, we gave thanks with us a harvest festival. The feasting and merrymaking were just getting under when Massaoit and 90 of his men entered our settlement.
Good job.
Oh, sorry.
You okay?
Yeah, I just...
Okay. I won't say we weren't a bit nervous with so many warriors around, but then we welcomed them among us, and once everyone had a bit to eat and a glass of aquavit, we were all best of friends. Massaoit's men carried in 5 fine deer to add to our feast. We entertained one another and feasted together for 3 days. I helped Lizzie carry the platters of food, and I considered myself to be most useful. I don't know what you are smiling about, Master Howland, she scolded. There are 6 quail burning on that spit, and look, the governor's spaniel is about to steal a whole turkey. I rushed to retrieve the turkey and burned my fingers saving the quail, which earned me a smile from Lizzie. During a quiet moment on the 3rd day, Elder Brewster stood and addressed us all. Friends, let us come before the Lord with thanksgiving. Let us shout joyfully to the rock of our salvation, and for he has delivered us from hunger and suffering and danger. Look now how we are blessed with fruitful fields and the choicest bounties of heaven. Let us give thanks for our good friend and neighbor Massaoit and for Squanto. Squanto is a special instrument sent by God for our good far beyond our expectation. Squanto translated the bit about himself for Massaoit with the greatest pride. He may have added a few flourishes, for he took a long time over with it. In truth, without Squanto's help and wisdom, we would not have survived the year. You think that's true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this the last page?
Let's see.
It's not. Oh.
Got a couple more, 3 more.
With the harvest and our celebration over, there was still plenty of work to be done. We were hoping to have 2 more houses built and watertight before the winter snow came. I was working on the roof of a house for Dr. Fuller when Captain Standish shouted from the fort, "Ship ahoy!" I nearly dropped my hammer on Dr. Fuller's head. In my haste to get down the ladder, this was the first ship in our harbor since the Mayflower had anchored there a full year before. She had called the Fortune.
She was called the Fortune.
She would call the Fortune. We had hoped for supplies from England, but all we got was 35 new settlers, without so much as a biscuit cake or a barrel of beer. Between them, there were mostly wild young men too. Governor Bradford dispersed
Good job.
them between several families, and we were all put on half allowance of food to get us through the winter. The ship's master wanted to be off again smartly, so we loaded in salted fish,
Sassafras. Mhm.
Sassafras.
Mhm.
Sassafras timber. As two hogsheads of beaver pelts. This was a valuable cargo that would go a long way towards our
Paying our debt.
paying our depth
Debt.
to
Mhm.
debt to our
Backers.
backers.
Mhm.
I thought hard. I thought hard on things.
Mhm.
I was a free man with money in my purse, and here the fortune that was about to return to London. London was where a hardworking young man
Mhm.
might make something of himself, and where I might see my family and hear my mother's gentle voice again. I resolved to take my passage home.
Okay. Good deal. My friends all came to say farewell. They were so sad to see me go, but they didn't try to stop me. Lizzie Tilly came too. I hear you are going back to London, John Howland. Dr. Fuller's house isn't yet finished. Look, the roof is still open on both sides, and the daubing of the walls hasn't even been started yet. The doctor has plenty of help. Those new boys off the ship can lend a hand, I answered. And you should come back too, Lizzie. You have no kin here. There is only another hard and hungry winter ahead of you now. My family is here, buried here, planted in American soil, said Lizzie, trying to control her temper. They wanted to build something good here, and they died trying. They shall not have died in vain, Master Howland. You go back to England. I'm not leaving. With that, she turned and walked away from me. I thought hard on it again. I thought about London. I thought about Master Carver and Roger, and about Squanto and Massasoit and all my friends, and what we had been through together. I thought of a rope lit up by lightning in the darkness under the icy waves. Why was I saved? To go back to London and make myself a fortune? Or to stay here and help put a roof on Dr. Fuller's house? And maybe to help build something bigger, something better? I thought again about my family. Most of all, though, I thought about Lizzie Tilly. I turned my back on the fortune, and I went up to the hill of Dr. Fuller's house, and I picked up my hammer. Okay.
Do we have to read that too?
Probably not. That's just the bibliography. So, so what did you learn from this book?
I learned that a lot of stuff actually.
Okay, like what? Give me one main thing that you probably learned about this book. So
That
at the
I thought that the Mayflower when it got there, they actually already made peace, but it actually ended up with a war first, and then.
Right. Good job. Okay. And what was your favorite part?
My favorite part was when. It was probably when he got off. It was funny that he stole the freaking corn.
The corn. Okay. Yeah. What would you change about this book, if anything?
I would change that he never fell off.
That he never fell off. Yeah, because that was scary, right? Yeah.
He could have died.
Yeah, he could have. But then the rope saved him, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I have a worksheet for you, and it's kind of just over double meaning words, and I want you to work on it by yourself, but if you need any help, I'm here for you. And if you need any help with the instructions, I'm also here to clear that up for you. So go ahead and work on that. You need some water?
Oh, yes.
Okay, I'll get you some. 1 second.
Today's the 14th, right?
Today's the 14th. Correct. So do you need help on the instructions?
I'm just looking.
Okay.
Can I just like point it out? Or
Yeah, go ahead and match it. It's your worksheet. You can write all over it if you want.
Oh, okay. Nice and gentle and kind, right?
Wait, okay, which one are you asking me about?
Nice and gentle.
What do you think? Do you think a definition for kind could be nice and gentle? Then yeah, go ahead and match it. For the record, you're right.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
good job.
Wait, is there like...
There's two. So double
Oh,
meaning.
okay.
So there's going to be two definitions for each.
I'm coming back to season again.
Okay, yeah, no problem.
Watch. This probably looks really messy.
No, you're fine. It looks fine. Okay, now that you're done with
I'm
that.
not done.
Oh, you're not done?
No.
Okay, I'm sorry. It looked like both of them had to. There we go. Good job.
Now I'm done.
Good job. Okay, sounds good. Okay, the next part. Can you think of 3 of your own double meaning words? And if you need help, I'm right here.
Lure? No.
Which
Lure?
one
No.
do you
Okay.
think? Yes. Huh?
Bait.
Bait. Okay. What's two meanings for bait?
One is like when you go fishing bait, and another one is when when you're like trying to make someone come here. or something.
Okay. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead and write that down.
Do you have to write the definition? Or whatever?
No, that's okay. You don't have to write the definition.
Another one would be flash.
Flash. Okay. Nice. Good job. What's 2 of them? What's the 2
One
meanings?
is like the guy that runs fast,
Mhm.
and then another one, the fastest man in the world, and the second one would be like a quick movement when you don't see it.
Right. Or camera
yeah.
flash. Yeah, you're right. Good job. Okay, last one. I'll try to help you out with this one.
Cool.
Cool. There you go. Good job. What are the 2 meanings of cool?
One is like really cold, and one is like what's up?
Good job. Okay, there's one last question on the back.
While Jasmine was anxiously
Good job.
waiting for her sister Jot, she glared at her watch to see what time had passed. Meaning of watch.
So in this context, what would the meaning of watch mean?
A timepiece.
A timepiece. Good job. Not a dog?
No.
Okay, I'm kidding. Okay, so we are done with that. And so I'm just going to go over what we went over today. What we went over today was I taught you the meaning of double meaning words and maybe how to find them in a context. So, how to search for words that may help it, or such as the sentence could help it. So, and you did awesome with that. You got to learn it, and I really hope that you get to use this in your classroom in the future, and you can be like, hey, I already know how to do this because Pooja taught me, and we good to go. So you did awesome, and I'm so happy, that I chose a bright young boy like you, and I hope that double meaning words are near in your future. So thank you for everything, Money.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you enjoy it?
Yeah.
Okay, good.